we have Griselda going on a rampage, killing competitors, people she owed money to, and people who owed money. I was born in Cuba, in Havana, Cuba, 1947, a long time ago, right? And my brother and I left Cuba in 1961. We came to the United States via an operation called Peter Pan. 14,000 young Cuban children were picked and were brought here to this country. We didn't know whether our parents were going to come or when. So my parents took a chance sending my brother and I here. My brother and I were fortunate in that we had our aunt and uncle in Miami. So we stayed in Miami. But of those 14,000, many thousands left Miami and went to orphanages throughout the United States, Catholic orphanages or foster homes that were part of the Catholic Church of the Archdiocese in their towns. So we had kids who one morning woke up, their maids dressed them up, the chauffeur drove them to the airport, and then they came to this country and they were sent to an orphanage or a foster home in a new country with a new culture, new language, and no money.
What is the reason that they're coming to the U.S.? Is that just because things were so bad at that point?
At that point, Fidel Castro threatened with taking the responsibility for children away from the parents.
Okay.
So he was going to let the state raise us. And our parents were afraid of what would happen to us.
Right.
They were afraid of the indoctrination. They were afraid of our safety. So for our safety, so they sent us here.
So an orphanage in the U.S. was better than the communist government in Cuba.
In 1966, I graduated from Drexel. I went to Miami-Dade Community College. At that time, I was the president of the Lords, a Cuban gang in Miami Beach. It turned out to be the biggest Cuban gang in Miami in the 60s.
Okay.
But it's not like the gangs today. I mean, we were not into, dope or anything like that. We were more into making sure nobody beat our asses, because for a year or so before, other kids were ganged up, American kids mostly. And for instance, in Hialeah, next to Miami, they used to go Cuban hunting on Friday nights and Saturday nights. So we wanted to make sure that if they came hunting for us, we'd be ready.
Right. So there was strength in numbers for us.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. In 1967, two of the guys from the gang and me, we went up A1A on a surf ferry. We stopped on most of the beach towns on A1A looking for the perfect wave, right? Which we found in Ocean City, New Jersey. But when I was there, my girlfriend calls, I called my girlfriend to see how things are going, how she's doing. And she says that my vice president wants to talk to me. So I call him. And he tells me that one of the guys who's with me is planning on bringing about 500 to 1,000 hits of from New York.
Good. So you were going up to New York. Okay.
Yeah,
you were going to come back.
But when the government seizes a car for transporting narcotics, they take the car.
Yeah, but they took it very seriously too,
Yeah.
right?
So that was my parents' car.
Right.
And it really pissed me off that these guys are planning. One of them was planning on bringing that shit in my car,
Mm-hmm.
So I came that night. I didn't say anything. I packed up, and the next morning I just drove straight to Miami. That was enough.
With them?
With them.
Oh, okay. Did you leave them?
No. I leave them. I brought them with me.
What did they say when you turned around? They must have noticed you weren't.
I told them.
Okay.
They didn't say anything the whole drive, the rest of the drive. So I got to Miami. I slept a little bit, and that night I fired 14 of my very, very best friends, guys that I had met that were my friends since we have all gotten to Miami. I got rid of them.
Right.
So
because this had happened behind your back and that you couldn't trust them.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it's because, I mean, how they put my parents' car. They would have put my parents' car in danger. My parents didn't have money to buy another car.
Right.
So when we came back, we started the school year 67, and I had applied for an internship with Miami Beach Police Department. And I got it. It was part of a program from college where you worked at a police department and you got paid, and then they give you credits for the hours that you put in. So I started working in Miami Beach Police Department. When I got there, they put me to work in the ID section.
What is the ID section?
The ID section is, for instance, we had a very heavy volume of fingerprint cards that needed to be classified because Miami Beach, in order for you to work in Miami Beach, you needed to get a civilian employee ID, but you had to be fingerprinted because they kept felons out. So I, as a cadet, had to classify all those cards so they could file them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I started doing that, and then one of the detectives who worked juvenile comes up to the ID section and sees me working there, and he said, "What is the president of the Lords doing working in this?" So they called me in. I went and I had a conversation with the juvenile ex, and they said, "Okay, we're going to give you a chance." But when they found out, people in narcotics found out. So, and I found out when I came back who was selling drugs to my guys.
Okay.
So I spoke to the people in narcotics, and I said, "Look, these guys are selling dope to my guys." And they said, "Well, what are they selling? Oh, marijuana, acid." So they said, "Can you set up a controlled buy?" I have no idea what that is.
Yeah.
But then after that, I did it many times with my guys. It's where you go to buy the drugs, but you're searched and given money that's marked. You're searched to make sure that you not carry any contraband that can be, say that you can say then, they sold me that.
Right.
So I went there and I went with two guys, and I bought 1 ounce of in 1967 for $25. That was my first buy. And then they said, "We'll see if they can sell you 2 pounds of."
2 pounds?
2 pounds, yeah.
So you went from an ounce to a pound.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they did. So he was set up to go down at the guy's apartment, one of the guys' apartment. Guy lived almost right across the street from the police department. So I went there and I purchased the 2 pounds. I came back, I opened the trunk of my car. That was a signal. And all these guys in uniform and in plain clothes came. They picked me up. They threw me on the floor and said, "Oh, shit, these guys forgot. These guys forgot I'm working for them. What are they doing?"
To make it look good.
They made it look real good. So then we were all handcuffed. I was put in a cell with one of the guys, and he would talk. I would talk to him. He would talk to me. So anyways, these two guys got 5 years for 2 pounds of in 1967. It was incredible. I mean, today you take it and you flush it. You don't even arrest somebody for 2 pounds of grass anymore. So anyways.
If back then, if you got 5 years in the state of Florida, did you do 5 years? Or did you?
In those days, you would do maybe like 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. There was not the mandatory minimum that they have now. That came out in the 80s. So
I never used to think about jewelry as something I'd wear regularly. Everyone has their go-to outfits, something you don't have to overthink and you look good in every time. Jewelry was always a special occasion thing for me. It was just something you'd put in a drawer somewhere. Then I learned about GLD and everything changed. These aren't just pieces you wear to a wedding. They become part of your everyday wardrobe. What actually sold me was the weight and craftsmanship. You can tell it's real gold the moment you pick it up. It's not light and cheap. It also comes in this great packaging, but you're probably not going to use it because once you put on the piece, you're never going to take it off. GLD can even create full custom pieces. Whatever your style, from simple pendants to iced out chains, GLD can make it. If you've got a design in mind, GLD's custom shop will bring it to life. Work hard and change the game. For a limited time only, new customers are getting an insane deal. Use promo code COX to get 40% off at GLD.com. That's 40% off with promo code COX at GLD.com.
They transferred me to juvenile.
Okay.
And then I started helping them with the gangs that were coming over from the mainland to Miami Beach, identifying people, stuff like that. So I graduated from Miami-Dade.
So you said people that are coming from what? From Cuba?
From the mainland. No, from Miami onto Miami Beach. Miami Beach is an island.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I've never heard that. Yeah. I never heard it referred to like that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Miami Beach is an island. You got 3 bridges that are going into the beach.
Yeah.
So the mainland was Miami. So they had a lot more gangs than Miami Beach did. So I graduated from Miami-Dade, and I started working, pending my citizenship.
Okay.
It would take several years with a residency, and then I was not eligible to take my citizenship exam until 1970. I had to quit Miami Beach Police Department because I was no longer
in college.
In college, yeah. You know, one interesting thing that happened when I was working at the beach, I had a part-time job also working at a drugstore with a stock inside the drugstore. And one day I come in and I see the captain in charge of internal affairs inside the store talking to the owner. And I'm thinking, Jesus, what did I do? I mean, the only connection that I knew between the store and the police department was me.
Right.
So when the captain is leaving, he says, "Hey, kid, come here." His name was Captain Shemp. Nice guy. He says, "I don't want you to worry, but I don't want you to tell anybody that you saw me here. So I'm going to tell you what happened is that last night the store was broken into by 2 police officers in uniform, in police cars. And they were seen by a Canadian tourist who was walking a dog." Wow. So, you know, after I saw, another thing had happened, my soon-to-be mother-in-law was working for a man named Eli Quain. He's dead now a long time, but he used to be an associate of Santo Traficante, and he was very friendly with judges and the chief of police. But his store got broken into, and they stole a whole bunch of stuff from the store. And he was the cops. So can you imagine this now? On a roll call at 11 o'clock, from 11 to 7, the captain showed up for the roll call, and he said, "Gentlemen, we've had a problem. We had a B&E over Eli's store, and we all know that Eli is a good friend of our chief. So I don't want to know who did it, although I know who did it, but I don't want a confession. All I want is all the stuff that was stolen from Eli to be placed back outside the store tonight." And next morning, everything that had been stolen the night before was there outside the store. You know, that scared the hell out of me, you know, because I didn't want to go into a police department where you know, all this was going on.
Yeah, there's a lot of corruption.
So when I got my citizenship, the guys from the beach were pushing me to take the beach exam and go with Miami Beach Police rather than with Metro-Dade. So I took both. But what I did is I made sure that I failed Miami Beach's test so that I would have an excuse to go with Metro. I get notified from the beach that I'd failed the exam. And I get notified from Metro that I passed it at 89. And that night, my soon-to-be mother-in-law's boss calls me at home. He says, "Hey, kid, how you doing? Good." Eli, "How are you?" He says, "Congratulations." I said, "Thank you." I thought he was talking about Metro.
Yeah.
He says, "Yeah, I talked to Rocky." Rocky was a chief, Rocky Pomerantz, and he told me you passed with a 90. I passed the beach test. I said, no, Eli, there must be a mistake here because I got the letter. No, the mistake was made in the letter. No. You passed with 90. So they want to set you up to take the polygraph. And I said, Eli, listen, it can't be because I know I failed it on purpose.
What do you say?
He said, "Oh, well, you don't want to go to the beach?" "No, Eli, I don't want to go to the beach."
Well, you think he pulled some strings or something, or just
Does he what?
did he pull some string? Like what?
He did.
Oh, okay.
He was a friend of Santo Traficante in Miami Beach, and I went with Metro.
Oh,
But it was imagine. I mean, you already have the letter in your hand.
yeah.
Well, you only got 50%. And then this guy calls you and says, "No, you got 90.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. If you didn't have proof of the corruption before that, now for sure.
yeah.
So where did you start? Like, did you start on patrol? Did you start because you'd already had an internship?
I went to the academy starting December 1970, and I graduated in May of 1971. When I was in the academy, I had a problem with Sergeant DeLuca, New York Recycle, that we came down to Miami-Dade. He calls me out of class one day and takes me into his office. He says, "Why is the Department of Justice asking questions about you?" I said, "I have no idea. No idea." He says, "Well, I had a guy from the Department of Justice come here, and he wanted to know how you were doing. If you had any problems. And, I'm going to tell you something. If there's an issue with the Department of Justice, I want you to resign right now." I said, "I'm not resigning." He said, "Well, I'm going to be looking for you. I'm going to be looking out for you. I'm going to be watching you." I said, "Okay." So I'm thinking I had no issues with the Department of Justice, but my soon-to-be father-in-law had been with the CIA and had worked with E. Howard Hunt for many years. And he had asked Howard to go to the academy and find out how I was doing. And that's what happened.
E. Howard Hunt he's the guy from the Watergate. Is he the one? Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, he sure is. E. Howard Hunt was also the CIA's man in charge of Bay of Pigs.
All right.
In 1961. And my soon-to-be father-in-law worked for him in the CIA during the Bay of Pigs training, training and the eventual landing. So I graduate May 1971, and I go to uniform. They put me in Liberty City. Liberty City is mainly blacks, very poor. And so it was considered in the department that 6 months in Liberty City was equal to 3 years in any other district as far as getting experience. So I go there, and I got chosen.
Before you get there, can I ask you a quick question?
Yes, sir.
So we're at Liberty City. What is your take on the Bay of Pigs? Just curious, from somebody who was there, in that time era, because I read a book that had been written this was when I was in prison. This is probably 15 years ago. It was written by a CIA officer that had been a part of the training and was on one of the boats when they were basically being slaughtered and
That was Rip.
begging for fuel and everything else, even though they held the beachhead for several days.
I think that was Rip.
Okay.
The book that you read.
Yeah.
I think it was Rip.
And it was just it just
He was in the training. Yeah.
it was extremely critical of Kennedy. So I'm wondering what because I've seen other people are like, oh, they didn't hold it. What do you mean they didn't? Like I after reading the book, and maybe it's just my take on it because of the book, but it seemed like they did everything and then some of what had been agreed upon, and Kennedy just let him get slaughtered. That's what it seemed to me. I don't know, but what is your take?
My take initially, I was a young kid when it happened. I mean, I was in Cuba when it happened, when the landing was there happened. So I always thought that Kennedy had betrayed us, the Cuban people. That was my thought. My father-in-law thought that Kennedy was a hero because he inherited this very poor plan from Eisenhower's people. I mean, the area where they landed was marsh,
Mm-hmm.
So he he said that Kennedy continued to wage a war against Castro, but through the CIA and very, very quietly. So my father-in-law admired Kennedy. He didn't make it very well known because he would have to explain.
Yeah.
So, but that's I had inside information on Kennedy, so that's how I feel. But I'll tell you something that happened when Kennedy got killed. In the afternoon, we were sent home from school because Kennedy had been killed, so they stopped the classes, and we went to Crespi Park in where we lived in Miami Beach, and we were playing basketball and laughing and yelling and screaming. And a guy across the street from the park said, "Hey, what are you guys doing? Don't you know that President Kennedy was killed today?" And one of the guys who was playing basketball, two of the guys, the Arguelles brothers, their father was in jail in Cuba because he was part of the invasion forces, and Kennedy, and they felt that Kennedy betrayed him,
right?
And they hated Kennedy. So when the guy says that, Carlos, one of the guys says, "Hey, you know what? Fuck you and fuck John F. Kennedy." And the guy goes inside the house, comes back with a rifle.
Shit.
One of the guys had thrown the basketball to the net, and I tell you, before that ball hit the ground, we were over the fence on the other side of the park, right? And we didn't go to the park for a few days. Years later, I saw the guy again. I was in uniform when I'm driving to work, and I see the guy, and I have plenty of time. So I stopped by, and I said, "Hey, officer, how can I give?" And we started to, and I told him what happened. And he starts laughing. He goes inside the house. I said, "Jesus Christ, this guy, you know, come back with a rifle." And he comes back with a Daisy BB rifle. He said, this is the rifle I brought out. We didn't know, but, we weren't going to stop and see whether it was a real rifle or a BB gun, So anyways, that's how I felt in the beginning about Bay of Pigs. And then I heard that Kennedy had in fact continued to do what, but Kennedy didn't have much chances to do much of anything. He took over the government in January 1961. The invasion was in April.
Yeah. Yeah, it was already, the training had been going on forever, and it was already in the works.
Yeah.
Okay, so Liberty City?
Liberty City.
You got to Liberty City.
I got to Liberty City, and I did very well as an officer there because I was very aggressive in my enforcement. But on June 17th, I was told by my lieutenant that I'm being transferred to the Organized Crime Bureau to work on a task force with U.S. Customs investigating a group of Cubans who had moved from New York to Miami and who were related to the French Connection case. June 17th, 1972 was the day that E. Howard Hunt and my father-in-law got caught in Watergate. My father-in-law was Eugenio Martinez. He passed away 2 years ago at the age of 90.
Mm.
So he was one of my mentors and helped me be a good cop.
So I'm wondering,
Yeah.
Colby's very young.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if Colby knows what Watergate is.
Only information I have is from this podcast a couple of years ago, and it's something to do with spy.
Yeah,
Presidential election.
listening equipment. So
That's all I know.
yeah, I remember Pete corrected me because I thought they got caught. I thought they got caught when they were in the building planting the equipment, but my buddy Pete told me no, they had gone in to remove the equipment, and that's when the burglars.
They had been there already.
Yeah, they'd already been there, but they were going back in for either they didn't work or they were
what
moving.
gave them up was that one of the guys had left some tape covering the lock on the door, and that was found by the guard
Oh, so he contacted the police.
who called the police. And then they caught these guys upstairs.
Listen, you just one mistake. You just got to make one
That's
mistake.
it. Yeah.
You can, with
And they got, I think, McCord, my father-in-law, Frank Sturgis, Barker, and the key guy. My father had rolls and rolls of film that never showed up at any hearing, and anywhere. They never showed up anywhere.
just disappeared.
So I don't know. So they
Must got lost.
Yeah.
Must got lost.
Yeah.
That happens,
Yeah. Yeah. So I went from uniform to the Organized Crime Bureau to be part of a task force to investigate this group of Cubans who have moved down. And let me tell you something. People watch TV and they read the paper or they read online, and they hear, the bust that happened here, the bust that happened there. And some people are under the impression that narcs and people like that are very well trained. I was fortunate because I had worked the undercover case in Miami Beach, so I had some experience, and I had already attended a seminar by the Bureau of Narcotics and Dangerous Drugs, which was a predecessor of the EA. But most narcotics guys in this country get pulled out of uniform and put in narcotics, and they say, "You're now a narc."
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
No training.
And other than on-the-job training, they don't do anything. They haven't done, so they have to learn on the job. And so it goes with most of specialized units. So I went there and I did my investigations of the French Connection guys. It was a hard case because these guys had come from New York.
Mm-hmm.
Many of them had worked numbers in New York, so they were always looking behind them for the surveillance. And we didn't have that many people, so it was one car and one guy. And they made us, almost immediately. When I finished working there, then I was sent back to uniform to finish my probation. And when I finished that probation, I went back to the Organized Crime Bureau to work narcotics. I worked narcotics for maybe 6 or 8 months. I made many undercover buys in local bars that nobody had been able to get in. So I was able to get in. I had a good informant, and I made purchases of in all these bars.
How old were you at this point?
I was 23.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry. I was 25
You're 25. You're Cuban.
Yeah.
You're kind of a street guy. Like
The guys, they saw me because the other guys were doing buys from hippies.
Yeah.
I would, they have the long hair and the beard and the, ripped up jeans and the Jesus sandals and all that. And they the ones that would go out and buy grass and shit.
Right.
So I would come in with a sport jacket and an automatic on my hip. And they'd say, man, you carrying a gun like that? Are you dressing like that? I said, listen.
August always sneaks up on me. One minute it's brutally hot outside. Next thing I know, I'm thinking about fall. That's usually when I start going through my closet and figuring out what's worth keeping. That's where Quince comes in. Their t-shirts are some of the softest I own. Their Mongolian cashmere sweaters feel like something way more expensive than what I paid. I keep wearing my favorite pieces over and over again. They work just as well on a normal day as they do when I go out to dinner. And if you're still wearing the same old beat up jeans, they've got denim and chinos starting at around $60 for the same kind of fit and fabric you'd expect from brands charging triple. Quince offers the same kind of quality you'd expect from expensive brands, but at 50 to 80% less. They work directly with ethical factories and cut out the middleman, so you're paying for quality, not the big brand name. And it's not just clothes. Quince has become my go-to for hotel quality bedding, bath essentials, premium cookware, and travel stuff too. It's one of the first places I check when I want something well-made that doesn't cost a fortune. Upgrade your everyday. Download the Quince app for app-exclusive offers or go to quince.com/true. Get free shipping on your first order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada and the UK. That's QUINCE.com/true.
Mine is a different market. Okay?
Right.
So I would go into these bars. I would show my gun because most of the guys there had guns.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not unusual for someone to carry the window. So I made the purchases. I made the undercover buys. And we hit all these people with search warrants. And we closed, I don't know, like 10 or 12 bars all of a sudden. When I started testifying in court, I got burned.
How? What do you mean?
Because this is
exposed. Yeah.
But this is something that people don't understand here, okay? And you see some police departments where they have narcs,
Mm-hmm.
guys who've been working in narcotics for 7, 8 years. That's bullshit. Because the moment that you go and testify in open court, and you show your face, and you know you, and you give your name, and you have the family and his friends sitting in the back looking at you, you're burned.
Yeah.
So when that case was through, I asked for a transfer because I didn't want to get killed.
Yeah.
I didn't want to go someplace, be recognized, and get shot. So I was transferred to the counter-terrorist unit where I spent most of my time. During the next 5 years, I worked counterterrorism. I worked every political homicide in Miami-Dade County, every bombing, every kidnapping, anything having to do with Cuban crime, that was mine.
What year was this? What years were those?
It was 1973, 1977.
Okay. This is all prior to the Mariel boat lift.
Army?
That's in what, 81?
80.
80.
Yeah,
Okay.
April 1980. So, anyways, I made some good contacts when I was working homicide. Organized crime. One of them was the radio personality in Miami, and his name was Milian. His last name, Emilio Milian. Emilio was very much an American patriot. He loved this country. And he hated terrorists who were committing terrorist acts in this country. His thing was if you're going to bomb something, go bomb Cuba. if you're going to murder someone because he differs with your opinion, go shoot someone in Cuba. But whatever acts were committed in this Cuba would make the Cuban exile community look bad in the eyes of Americans.
So when you say terrorism, what is the terrorist groups that are, that are functioning at that time? And when I think of terrorism, I think of 9/11. So.
A Cuban terrorist group, or a combination of them, Cuban Power, the Cuban National Liberation Front, were one of the first terrorist groups to blow up a commercial airline in flight and killing everyone aboard.
But these are what is their goal? They're blowing up. I mean, why are they blowing up stuff in the United States?
Okay, because they couldn't go do it in Cuba. They didn't have the balls to get in. They got on a boat and go do it in Cuba. Okay.
So what are they hitting here?
What are they? What?
What are the terrorist acts against here? Are they Cubans? Are they against?
Many of them was Cuban against Cuban.
Oh, okay.
The death of José Elías de la Torriente, Rolando Masferrer, and several others were committed by Cubans on Cuban because the particular group that was committing these cases, these acts, wanted to be in control of whatever anti-Castro efforts were made in Miami.
So these aren't even like democratic organizations that are committing acts against communist organizations. These are democratic Cuban organizations blowing up other democratic Cuban.
Exactly.
Oh, that's just stupid.
That is the reason
Yeah.
why that government is still in Cuba, because the Cubans in exile have never, ever gotten together and agreed to be one group for the liberation of Cuba. We had 20 or 30 different groups working. Miami.
Interfighting.
New Jersey, New York, California. Interfighting. They killed Cuban political figures in Miami because they wanted their group to be the top group.
Right.
And they blew up that airline. They killed a man in front of the Chilean embassy. This was the Prime Minister of Chile during the presidency of Allende.
It's a bad strategy.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bad strategy.
It was terrible. It was a terrible time. So I learned to work a scene by working the bomb scenes. Bomb scenes are the work you do in a bomb scene is a lot more meticulous than the work you do on a homicide scene, because on a bomb scene you're looking for maybe a little wire, a piece of paper. So you can become very detailed. And I worked that. So while I was there, they asked me they detached me to a group called Airport Seaport Security Project. This was a group that was assigned to investigate the organized infiltration of the unions at the seaport. So I worked that for about a year and a half before the terrorism got bad, and I was called back to terrorism in February. And I went to trial on a guy that we had arrested in Fort Walton Beach, Florida. This guy's name was Rolando Otero Hernandez. He was known as the Mad Bomber. He detonated 10 bombs in 2 days in Miami. He put a bomb on the Miami Herald dispenser in front of the FBI. He put a bomb inside the men's room of the state attorney's office. He placed a bomb in the squad room of Miami Police Department. He went crazy. Okay, so I made him on one fingerprint. All these bombings, and they only left one fingerprint, and I made him on that on a locker at Miami International Airport. He was taken to Jacksonville by the federal government and tried and found not guilty by a jury in Jacksonville. I don't know what happened there. But anyways, I called the state attorneys and I said, listen, Rolando Otero was just found not guilty. And he's going to be walking. So we came up with a new warrant number that was made up by the guys in Miami, and we charged him, and we arrested him and brought him to Miami. There was a change of venue in his case, was sent to Fort Walton Beach. We were sworn in, and I remember when my partner and I got there, and we carried little fag bags.
Right.
You know, fag, F-A-G, doesn't mean, it's not referring to
homosexuality.
It stands for fast action gun bag, F-A-G, bag, okay?
Doesn't sound good, though.
Huh?
Doesn't sound good.
The what?
It still doesn't sound good.
I know. Them boys up in Fort Walton Beach, they didn't wear no fag bags. They didn't carry no fag bags.
Right.
So when my partner and I were deputized and we left that afternoon, we said, let's go celebrate. And we went into a cop bar. And the moment we walked in there, everybody stopped talking. And there was silence. And then I see everybody looking at our fag bags. And I told Art, I said, you do exactly what I'm going to do, okay? He said, all right. So I took my bag, and inside my bag was my Browning, which weighed a lot. So I took it and I dropped it on the bar, and he made a very loud noise. And he took his and dropped it on the bar and made a very loud noise. So it was clear what was inside those bags. So then we started having guys coming over, introducing themselves, and we did very well. Rolando Otero was found guilty in the state case and given 80 years. During that case, I was asked by the sheriff to serve a subpoena to E. Howard Hunt in Eglin prison. So Art and I, when Art's father used to work for the CIA, and we went to serve the subpoena on E. Howard Hunt, and when we get there, the prison head comes, accompanies us to E. Howard Hunt's cell. When we get there, Howard looks at me and goes, hey, how are you? He comes and gives me a hug and a kiss, and I gives Art a hug and a kiss. And the warden is looking at us like, whoa, wait a minute. Who are these guys that are so close to us? So he calls the sheriff and lets him know. So we went back. The sheriff asked me, why are you so friendly with E. Howard Hunt? So we explained to him that Art's father used to work for the CIA, and Hunt was his boss, and that my father-in-law was caught inside Watergate with Howard Hunt. The guy goes, oh, your father-in-law's a patriot. And after that, I could do no wrong in Fort Walton Beach. Okay? My father-in-law got caught, went to jail, but he's a patriot. So, hey, I'll take it any day. So when I came back, I got promoted. No, I got one call. I get a call, and the deputy there says, Detective Diaz, you have a phone call from Miami. I said, okay. So I go get the call, Diaz, and the voice says, congratulations, Sergeant. I said, I'm sorry, sir, I'm Detective Diaz. He said, nope, you're Sergeant Diaz. I said, listen, I got security on the trial here, and I don't have time for this. So, so I'll talk to you later, whoever it was. He says, I'm telling you, I promoted you today. I said, hey, fuck you. And I hang up. So I go back to the court, and the deputy comes back after me, and he says, "You got another phone call." So I pick up the phone, and I go, "What?" And it's the major, who's my boss in the Organized Crime Bureau. He said, "Do you recognize my voice?" I said, "Of course, sir." He said, "So the next voice you're going to hear is that of E. Wilson Purdy." And that was our director.
Right.
And he had promoted me in absentia, calling me to tell me he promoted me. I told the guy to go fuck himself. And so he said, "Oh, don't worry about it. It's happened to me before." I said, "Okay." So anyways, I stopped in Miami, got my badge, got sworn in. And in February of 1977, I was transferred to a uniform. By that time, I had made enemies inside my own department because I was doing a very good job. And I had made connections with every state and federal agency in the state of Florida. I had friends inside every agency. I could pick up the phone and find out anything in the world I wanted to know. And I had these connections because I worked with people. If I found out something that I couldn't do anything about, but ATF could, I'd give it to ATF. And I would do the same thing with DEA. And so I went to work uniform. So I got to Southwest District. And the captain there was a guy named Bob Windsor, known as Flat Top, because he had not changed his hairstyle since he left the Marines. And he was not friendly with people who worked in the Organized Crime Bureau because we were treated differently than other guys in the department. We were supposed to be like the elite of all the elites in the department. And so he told me that I would be getting a squad, and it was the worst producing squad in the district.
So they were giving you a squad? Like they were putting you in charge of a squad?
Yeah, every sergeant had a squad.
Oh, okay.
So they give me this squad, which is, they call it the fuck-up squad. So I got the fuck-up squad.
How many guys is that?
There were 8 guys.
8 fuck-ups.
8 fuck-ups.
All right.
But when I asked, that my saving grace there, my thing was that his secretary, the captain's secretary, had been the secretary in Central when I worked there. And she loved me. So I said, "Listen, what's wrong with this squad?" He says, "I think it's a sergeant that you're replacing. He's terrible." I said, let me have the personnel files. So I took all the personnel files, and then one thing I noticed, in Metro, it's like in the Army. When you go in the Army, if you go artillery, or if you go infantry, or if you go tanks, that group will always be your home.
Mm-hmm.
And in Miami-Dade Police Department, if you worked in Central, you were a Central guy. If you worked South, you were a South guy. So here we go. We have a squad of 7 Central guys in 1 South, and the sergeant is from South District, and he put the South District guy as his acting sergeant. So the rest, and he put him over a guy from Central who had more seniority. So they got pissed off. So I come over, take over, and I remove the guy from South District, and I put a guy from Central in charge of being the acting sergeant. In 2 months, the fuck-up squad was the most producing squad in the district. We had more arrests, more tickets, more everything, more calls answered, more reports, everything. We were the number 1 squad in that district. So Bob Windsor was very happy with what I did there, and he was finally convinced that he had to form a VIN squad, that stands for Vice, Intelligence, and Narcotics. Windsor hated them because he didn't like the narcotics investigators. He didn't like anything that would have long hair.
Oh, okay.
So But he was forced to because every district had to have one. His district was new. So he called me up and he offered it, and I accepted. I said, yeah, I'll take it. I said, with one proviso. I said, when is this going to happen? He says, Monday. I said, okay. We're not going to go operational for 3 months. I want all my guys, and I prepared a training plan where I took some of the guys and I sent them to DEA for 2 or 3 weeks. I took others and I sent them to OCB narcotics for 2 or 3 weeks. I sent other guys to ATF, to Customs, and to City of Miami Police Department, Hialeah Police Department, and Florida Department of Law Enforcement. So when they came back, they had their own contacts in all these agencies, and they had the training. They were trained to see how these people were working.
Yeah, because you said earlier they were just taking guys off the beat and throwing them in there, and they didn't understand how to work it at all.
So my guys hit the ground running. In a year and a half, my unit, my Southwest Vice Intelligence and Narcotics Unit, had seized more narcotics, made more arrests, and seized more cash than all the other 6 units combined. So we were presented with the Departmental Unit Citation. That year I made Officer of the Month and Officer of the Year. One thing that happened, forgot to get into that. You know, when I was working terrorism, we're looking for these explosives. For these explosives, and people were getting, where are they getting this? And there had been a break into a magazine full of dynamite. It was stolen. And I remember I had an informant in the Outlaws Motorcycle Club. And he says, are you interested in any dynamite? Of course. So he set up or arranged for me to meet someone who was going to give me a taste, a stick of dynamite to see if I was interested. I was introduced to Motorcycle Mama by the name of Janet Barnes. Janet was about, 5 foot square. Big. So I was introduced to her, and I go meet her by myself. And I said, listen, I understand that you got some dynamite. Yeah. I said, well, how much you want per stick? She told me, I don't know, it was like $50 or $100. And I said, do you have a sample? She says, yeah. So she comes out with a dynamite stick in a towel, and it's all wet. It's all wet because the dynamite stick is sweating nitroglycerin. I mean, if you drop it, it'll go off.
Right.
When you have all that nitro sweating. So, I mean, I walked that stick down the stairs to my car. I put it in the back seat. I got very smoothly into my driver's side, and I called, and the guys in the bomb squad were waiting for me, like 5 blocks from there. I drove it there, and they took it off my hand. And the guy says, you're lucky because this is it's very dangerous. So anyways, we made arrangements to buy the rest of the dynamite that they had stolen. And we went to meet with Janet. And I took with me one of my partners in counterterrorism, Iggy Vasquez. He was 6'4", 250 pounds. He had won the police Olympics, bench pressing. So I took him with me. I was wired this time. Mm-hmm. She never searched me the first time. So we go in and we make arrangements. She gives me the address I gave her an envelope with all the money. She gives me the address. I get on the phone. I call the address. He doesn't go get it. It's paid for. He's going to call the guy. And my cue to my guys when they were supposed to come in and arrest Janet was, there's an end to everything, Janet. All good things must come to an end. So I'm talking to her and I said, Janet, all good things must come to an end. And nothing happens. Okay. And I look at Iggy, all good things, Janet, must come to an end.
And she said, okay.
And she said, okay.
You said that.
So, what are you saying? And nothing happens. So I said, fuck it, Janet, you're under arrest.
Right.
Matt, I'm telling you, I have never heard a sound like that come out of a human being before then or even now. I have never heard a growl like that come out of any other human being I've known in my life. It was like a, and she got up, and there in the folds of her stomach, there's a little handle, and Iggy goes, gone. But there's if I hadn't been there, that lady would have beaten the shit out of the 6'4", 250-pound guy. And we're in the middle of it wrestling, and the door comes on, bam! And it's the other two guys that were outside waiting. So it was an experience.
So what happened? They couldn't hear.
My wire a wire had come out from the transmitter, and they couldn't hear.
Right.
I'm saying, I'm yelling. All good things just come to an end.
Right.
Yeah. So, it was a dangerous thing to work
Undercover.
Yeah, especially with motorcycle guys. When I was working the Southwest VIN, this was starting 77, 78, and the beginning of 79. That was, 79 and part of 80. That was when the Cold Wars started. At first, we thought it was the Colombians trying to get in to the Cuban market and trying to fight, and the Cubans were going to war. But it was not, because all the dead people were Colombians. Okay? All the guys that were getting killed were Colombians, no Cubans. So I'm saying, if there's a war, the Colombians are losing it. But it was not so. So in 79, before people say that a shooting at Dadeland Shopping Center was the reason, was what started us looking into what was really happening. But it was before that, a couple of weeks before that, there was a chase going down US 1. There were two cars hauling ass down US 1, and a police car starts chasing them. Well, they start shooting from one car to the other, and one car takes off. This one car is left behind, and they start shooting it out with the cops. These guys go off the road, and they smash a light pole, and so they were there. One guy gets out and starts running away. They open the trunk of the car, and there is a dead body, hog-tied, and several kilos of. That one guy, 2 weeks before that, there had been the homicide of a maid in a safe house where the cocaine was stolen. That maid belonged to the guy who owned the merchandise in that house. The guy, hog-tied, had been the one who had killed the maid.
Okay.
So the owner of the killed the guy who stole the cocaine. Okay? Now, the guy who stole the 2 weeks later, the guy who shot this guy, the guy who lost the cocaine and the maid.
Yeah.
And then he killed this guy. He goes to Dadeland Mall, the Crown Liquor Store, and he and his bodyguard out there looking to buy some wine, and two guys come in and shot the hell out of them. The guys who came in and shot the hell out of them were Griselda's boys.
Griselda Blanco.
Griselda Blanco's boys. I had never heard the name Griselda Blanco until that day. These two shooters had come into Dayland in a step-up van, which was abandoned behind the shopping center. When we got there, we saw that the step-up van had been added 3-inch steel plating along the sides, and the roll-up door had been covered with bulletproof vests. So it was an armored car.
Yeah.
And it had portholes where they could stick guns out and shoot it out. And I had no doubt that that van was prepared to transport money and drugs and to have it out with the police. That truck would have killed a lot of policemen. And inside that truck, these guys left behind 14 other guns, other firearms. Everybody, that's when everybody said, well, what's going on here? And the day after the shooting, a friend of mine from DEA named Charlie Cecil, who spent a lot of times with my unit, he said, that was Griselda Blanco. That was Griselda Blanco. And I asked who Griselda Blanco was. And when he told me, I couldn't believe it. Because he's telling me about a woman who is from Medellin, which would make her a competitor or a member of the Medellin cartel, who at that time was Pablo Escobar, the Ochoas, Rodriguez Gacha, the Mexican, and Carlos Leder, Plains Transportation. Those were tough people.
Mm-hmm.
And for him to tell me that this woman had her own organization and that she was respected and somewhat feared by these very bad men told me that this was a very dangerous individual. But we had no idea until then what was going on. And it turned out that there was no war, actually. It was Griselda Blanco killing competitors, people she owed money to, and people who owed her money. Unlike other people who would, if you owed money to some people, they would break your legs or something if you didn't pay them. Nah, she didn't care. If she didn't collect, she'd kill you. So, in 1980, we had the Mariel boat lift, and we had the Miami riots, and we have Griselda going on a rampage in Miami.
Mm-hmm.
There was an article that came out called Paradise Lost. That came out in Time magazine. And that really kicked the politicians into action. Everybody wanted to do something. But my captain from Southwest District, who had put me in charge of the VIN squad, had moved on to Detective Bureau. He had been promoted to major, and he was put in charge of all detective bureaus, including homicide. Before he got there, just recently before he got there, the FBI had worked in a corruption case where they arrested most of the experienced homicide investigators in Miami-Dade Police Department because they were stealing drugs, stealing money, and getting rid of it through a Cuban drug trafficker named Mario Escobar, who went back to 1968 in the first big operation that the government had against Cuban traffickers. These cocaine guys, these homicide detectives, were stealing drugs and dealing it through Mario. The drugs that were found in the car where the body was in the trunk, when they were analyzed again, it was all sugar in the property room. These guys, one of them had checked out the real cocaine and put in sugar and other, but nobody knew who had taken it. But anyways, he was probably one of those that got indicted. So Windsor called me, and he says, I have a terrible problem with the Homicide Bureau. They are completely demoralized, and I'm having a problem with federal agencies and state agencies trusting them,
Right.
trusting the guys that are left.
That seems fair.
Yeah. He says, I need you to come here. And I need you. I said, Major, I don't know anything about homicides. You know? He says, well, you know scene work because you work bombings. But what I want you here for is I want you to bring your contacts with you and establish, the rapport that we had before. And also I want you to help these guys out with informants. I said, okay. So I went to homicide.
Okay. Real quick, can I ask a question about the Mariel boat lift? How many people came over in what period of time? Because this is Castro was frustrated at people going to the United States, so he opened up the prisons and sane asylums or mental hospitals, whatever, and said go, and they jump on boats and they're coming because we're 90 miles away. It's still a rough crossing, and so they start landing on the shores of Miami or Florida in general because was it Carter that was president? And
yes,
he had was it wet foot or dry foot? Well, he had the policy where if you could make it here, you could stay, right?
Yeah.
So but how many people
what
came
happened
over?
was Carter changed the policy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. What Carter did was there was some guys went into I think it was the Brazilian embassy, and they were sent them to the United States, and Carter received them. When that was found out in Cuba, thousands of people went into the Brazilian embassy, and Castro was pissed off and said, "Okay, you guys want to go to Miami? All right, I'm going to open the port of Mariel for any and all boats that want to come in and take their relatives back to Miami. It's open." So he did. And over a period of 6 to 8 months, 125,000 people came into Miami, out of which
A lot of people.
15,000 were hardcore criminals and mental patients. And in some cases, both. Okay?
Right.
Now imagine those criminals who came from Cuba became super criminals when they hit the United States. You have to figure out that in Cuba, these guys have the right to remain silent only as long as they can stand the pain.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So these guys were criminal in Cuba. They had to be bad because there they would take you, they would beat the crap out of you, put you in jail, and beat the crap out of you every day. They come here and they are told that they do have the right to remain silent. that they have a right to an attorney. And if you can't afford it, we're going to give you an attorney. Okay? These guys, it's like a big birthday party for all these guys. So strong arm robberies, burglaries, assaults, it all went up. It all went up. And then the Colombians found that these Marielitos were pretty mean themselves. And they were cheaper than the Colombians hitmen that they were bringing. So there was a kind of a romance happening there where Colombians were hiring these Cuban hitmen as bodyguards. And so this all came together and just created one hell of a situation. I mean, listen, any city, anywhere that absorbs 125,000 people in 6 to 8 months, and of that, 15,000 are criminals. Listen, there were 5 times more criminals than cops, or 8 times more criminals than cop that came from Mariel. So we had to. I mean, when the riots took place, I was not in homicide, but the guy from homicide would tell me that they had a call. Uniform unit was standing by. There was a dead body someplace, and they would go there with the medical examiner truck, go open the doors, put the body inside the medical examiner's truck, and take off. There was no scene work. There was no picking up projectiles.
Just because the bodies are coming, because it's coming in so fast.
And at that time, there were so many bodies coming to the medical examiner's office that they had no place to put them. And so the medical examiner's office rented a freezer trailer from Burger King. And they put
horrible.
What? Yes,
It's horrible.
I know. I didn't eat Burger King for a year, But they did. They had to.
Yeah.
So they put the bodies inside a Burger King trailer. For those people who are listening, it would happen 45 years ago, so they don't have to worry about the Burger King things anymore. But no, I didn't eat Burger King for about a year, okay, because I didn't know whether the trailer, So
you move over. So at this point, you move over to the homicide, and at the same period of time, they've arrested half the homicide detectives for fraud.
Yeah.
Or not for fraud, sorry, for corruption.
yeah.
And so you take over that unit to try and bring back some, training and credibility. And
I was transferred to a lieutenant's position, but my rank was sergeant.
Mhm.
So a lot of resentment there, because there were guys, there were sergeants in the homicide section that could have taken over that position, but they had the same, they were guilty by association.
yeah, you know what's going on. You're just not saying anything, and
So-
you think that somehow
So
makes you okay.
they
makes
were
it
not
okay.
trusted.
Yeah.
So I remember the first week I was there, 2 guys from homicide said, "Hey, boss, listen, we've been trying to get this guy who's a witness to a homicide, and we know that if he talks to us, we'll solve this homicide, and maybe you can help us." I said, who are you looking for? He says, "The Monkey Morales." So in those days, we didn't have portable phones. So I beeped Ricardo. He calls me right back immediately. And I said, "Where are you?" He says, "I'm at the Mutiny Club." I said, "Fine." So I took my 2 guys. We went to the Mutiny. Ricardo's sitting there at a table, his favorite table. He's sitting with his back to the wall there, and then all the entrances are within his view. So we sit down, and my guys started asking him about what they needed, and he did solve the case for them, and they made a murder case. One of the guys says, "Ricardo, you have a gun on you?" He said, "No." "How can you sit here like that with no gun?" He says, "Excuse me 1 second. Jennifer, can I have some bread, please?" And Jennifer brings a basket of bread And Ricardo opens it, and there's this Browning 9mm inside the bread basket. He says, so it's always within my reach.
All right.
So these guys were able to do that, and that was good that happened because the guys started seeing what it was that I was bringing there.
Yeah.
But I was expecting it, that someone would question my authority as a lieutenant with the rank of sergeant. And it happened to have been one of my good friends in homicide who wanted to be funny. And I said, when you get to this, he was called to the scene of homicide, said, David, when you get there, if you need anything, call me. And he mumbled kind of like, oh yeah, like you know so much about homicide, I need to call you. And I was sorry it was him, but I'm glad it happened because I knew how to bite that dog right in the ass. I called him back in, and I said, I can't believe you said that. And I made him feel pretty bad, and he went back out and did apologize. Then from that day on, I had no problem. When all these homicides were going on, and we were not able to work them, I meet...
How are they getting solved then? Or are they just not?
They're not.
It's a body.
They're still case open, pending.
Is it like triage though? Are you figuring, hey, there's 14. These 2 are probably solvable. These 2 were not even going to work. Like, is it?
It was kind of a triage, yeah.
Okay.
Where you would take the one with the most leads.
Right.
But you have to remember something. In homicide investigations in this country, traditionally, the hardest homicide case to solve is the whodunit.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
When you get to the scene, find the body, you know that somebody bumped Joe Smith, and then you start finding out who done it.
Right.
We had a worse problem. We had, who is it?
Right.
So when we got to the scene, we would find a Latin male who would take the wallet out of his pocket. He'd have a driver's license, a false driver's license, with a false address, false credit cards under other names, card registration, the car was out there, and they came to the name and the driver's license, but we didn't know. We went to an address that was not the address. This guy was not the guy on the driver's license. So we had a who is it, who done it.
So there's no APHIS, there's no NCIC, right?
Yeah, we had NCIC.
Okay.
We had NCIC.
But you don't even know who to run.
Huh?
You don't even know who to run.
That's exactly the point.
Unless maybe he's got a tattoo or something. Or
No. These guys were not tattooed. The Marielitos, yeah, they were covered with tattoos. The Colombians were not tattooed. Very few of them were tattooed. So we had
no cell phones, no cameras, no flock cameras,
no DNA,
no nothing. Just a Burger King van.
Nice guy. Yeah, hey, but so that was a problem we had. So when I get there, I meet an old friend, June Hawkins. June had been an analyst when these homicides started happening. Someone smart enough brought her as an analyst to homicide. The problem was that they didn't know how to use the information that June was giving them. And besides that, they were not, the homicide is a reactive investigative technique. The investigators are reactive. They have never been proactive. They get called to the scene. There's a body there. They start.
Yeah.
So that's reactive. June was doing things that they could start identifying people, but they had to do some legwork. And those guys were not interested in that. So they're gathering intelligence, but they're not using it. And June was getting frustrated. I started reading. She had acquired incredible amount of information, but it was not being used. So when this article came out, Paradise Lost, on Time magazine, and these politicians are going crazy, I wrote a proposal. I knew what a Centag unit was because I was very close to DEA. I was an instructor for southern region of the DEA in Miami, and I traveled with them all over the place teaching other departments. So I was familiar with the Centag program. I put together a paper, and I wrote somewhere that whoever led that Centag unit had to be a Latin, okay, who spoke Spanish, not just a Latin by name, who spoke Spanish, who had experience in narcotics and in terrorism.
It just sounds very. Who's 5'10" and 185 pounds?
That was, and so I wrote this for myself.
Right.
Why not? And then I went to present that paper to Peter Bensinger, who was the DEA administrator at the time. He had been appointed by Carter, but he wanted to remain under Reagan. So he wanted to do anything he could. And the problem in Miami was the number one priority for DEA, for FBI, for ATF, for every federal agency. And so I took it up there. He approved it. And one day, he didn't even read it. He said, approved. Let's do a Centag. And they put me together with my Centag coordinator, and we started it.
Do you get additional people to come in, or you're just using your same squad and you're just going to train them?
They allowed me. The best thing I got from DEA was a zero budget.
Oh, okay.
Okay? That means I have...
That doesn't sound good.
Pardon me?
That doesn't sound good.
Oh, yeah. Let me tell you something. Oh, yeah. I love zero budgets because they tell you, look, tell us what you need. And I told them everything we needed, everything. We needed computers. We needed computer analysts. We needed rental cars. We needed everything I needed. They gave it back. They gave it to us. In other words, money would never run out because there was no money. Just tell us what you want and we'll get it to you. I was able to choose my guys, my supervisors, except that in one case, I was given one sergeant and one guy that came from the same station as he did. But I knew the one detective because he had worked for me in VIN. But he was still chosen by the major who had changed by that time. So we started. I started having training days with these guys. Did the same thing with some of them as I had done with the guys. And we went operational, I think it was in December of 81. Before that, before we went operational, one night we got a call. And we're told that Paco Sepulveda, who was one of Griselda's favorite hitmen, and her brother-in-law, was staying at a hotel in Key Biscayne. I went there. I put together a group of guys, 12 homicide investigators, 12, and myself and Bobby Gonzalez, another lieutenant. We saw the guy come out, and he sure as hell looked like Paco. So when he came out, we blocked the street. He came out. He went off the road onto the grassy area, and when he went, he came within 3 inches of running me over. I'm stalking against my car with my Browning in my hand, and he pulls the window over and shoves a Mac 10. I went down, and he stepped on it and took off. I turned around and I shot at him.
He didn't fire the Mac 10. He just put it out the window.
Pardon me?
He just put it out the window. He didn't fire it, though.
No, I didn't. He had nothing to fire at because by that time I'm eating grass, buddy. So he made a left turn. Key Biscayne has only one way in, one way out. We raised the bridge,
the drawbridge, right?
And that's it. So we caught him. The next day, I get called by the major secretary, is that my captain wants to meet with me with the major. So I go, and I said, what's going on? No, I asked her why. He says, he's been, raving around here. Why did you have an automatic? And everybody else had. Oh, I said, okay, fine. So I looked at my papers at home, and I took one paper out, and I took it with me. So we went. He walks me into the major's office. Major was Windsor, my mentor. So we sit down, and Captain Frank says, why did you have an automatic? I said, because I have permission. Who gave you permission? So I showed him the memorandum I had. And it was signed by Windsor 2 years before. Because I was working narcotics, and he gave me permission to carry an automatic, but you can carry that from one unit to another one. So he had to shut up. And then I explained to Windsor, I said, look, we stopped this guy. He had a Mac 10 with 60 rounds. He had a Mac 11, which was the same as a Mac 10, but in 380, with 60 rounds. That's 120. And he had Smith & Wesson Model 59 with 2 magazines of 14 rounds each. So this guy has got 148 rounds.
Right.
My 12 guys from homicide at 38 rounds.
Combined.
Altogether, there are 72 rounds.
It seems a little outgunned.
Huh?
They're outgunned.
Oh, yeah. So Windsor looks at the captain and says, what's your complaint? He says, well, I thought, so he couldn't say. And Windsor says, what do you think we should do, Raul? I said, I think we should give, as long as homicide has got to investigate these cases, they need to be they need better weapons. So he says, you're saying we should go to semi-automatics? Yes, sir. He looks at Marshall, and he takes his hand and slaps it on the table. He said, horseshit. We're going to go fully automatics. I love that guy. So when we went out, Centac had machine guns, and you never see a happy face until you see a Cuban with a machine gun. Okay? So that was Pablo. He became an informant later. So we started.
So he was the hitman.
He was a hitman.
But you didn't have him on any hits. Is that it?
But he wasn't.
Did you have him on? Was he attached to bodies?
No, most of his cases were in Colombia.
Oh, okay. So we
didn't know anyone that he had killed here.
And he's acting as an informant because for what reason? For money or just to stay free?
Because to stay free.
Okay.
Yeah. He pulled a gun on a bunch of cops, and
What are the rules for him? Like when he walks out the door, do you have a set of rules? Like, we're going to let you do this, but you can't do this, and this, all of which I'm sure he disregards. But absolutely. No more guns for me, no drugs.
When we arrested him, he says, well, are you going to help me with a bond? I said, I can't help you with a bond. You have to make bond. Mm-hmm. He says, well, can we go back to the apartment? I said,
I have a briefcase.
So he says, okay. So I said, okay, we'll go back to the apartment. So we go in the apartment. He goes in the kitchen. He takes the sugar container, he empties it, and there's like 40 or 50 emeralds.
Well, they're not going to take the emeralds for bond. Right? He's got to
So-
bring that to a bondsman or something. Right?
So he's got these emeralds, and so we allowed him to give them to his girlfriend. And then his girlfriend, and then he told her to give them to give some to the lawyer
Right.
who was going to argue his bond. And
The
we
good
helped
old
him.
days.
Huh?
The good old days.
Yeah.
You could go in with cash and they didn't ask any questions like, oh, they just put it in. Now it's like, where'd this come from? Do you have your 1040s for last year? It's like, oh, God.
So, anyways, the attorney was a Cuban attorney, very well known for his sneaky ways. He told the girlfriend that she had to give him all the emeralds, or the government were going to take him away from her. And she did.
See, I wouldn't want to fuck this guy over.
He got him out of bond and told him that he had to use all his emeralds. 2 months later, that attorney was shot to death going into his car.
Yeah, that's what you get. You get cute.
But Pablo was with us when he got shot. Okay, so we couldn't, and he got shot in the city of Miami. So it's not our case. Anyways, we got to Centec, and we got Centec going. We got good information on our number one target.
Who's that?
His name is Rafael Leon Rodriguez, better known as Amilcar. We were fools because we thought that Amilcar, as bad as he was, I mean, we thought he was really bad
Right.
with the 20-some murders that we suspected him of. We later found out that some of these guys had 120 murders.
Mm.
And so we went out. We had information that he was going to meet somebody at the Mutiny Hotel, and then we had to follow him and see when would we take him down. So we followed him out of the Mutiny. He went into Coral Gables, a very ritzy area in Miami, very rich people, very expensive stores, and so we lost him. We had 10 cars on him and an airplane. We lost this guy. I don't know how. We lost him. But we knew he had to be within like a 4-block area there. So we started going around, and we saw him come out of a French restaurant, get in his car, and take off. They take off. They go 1 block, make a right. They're on the June Road, a block away from Miami High School. The kids are coming out of school and going to the Burger King a block away from them. When he makes a right and goes on the June Road, he stops in the middle of the road, right outside the Burger King. They don't move, so everybody freezes. And my guy said, "What do we do now?" I said, "Obviously, we're burned. Let's take him down." Well, one car pulls up in front of him. When the car pulls up in front of him, something that I had never seen happen before happened. They opened fire through the front windshield without opening a door. They just put their guns out there and started shooting right in front of them. The guy who was driving the car that blocked them got hit in the ear with a piece of glass. And the lady agent had to beat the pavement because they were going to kill her. So they both get out of the car. The driver was a black Cuban from Mariel, who was already wanted on a murder.
Mm-hmm.
So they both take off running. Amilcar a car stops to see what's going on. He opens the door, pushes the guy over, and he gets in the car and drives away. The other guy, he had already shot at my guys, so he's running with his gun still in his hands. And my guy ran him over. the press asked him, why did you do that? He said, well, I'm not going to, he'd already shot at me.
Yeah.
I'm not going to stop and say, freeze, police, and then give him another chance.
Yeah.
So he says, I ran him over. And he did. But
That seems like a clean shoot to me, even though it wasn't a shoot.
Yeah. So anyways, we got the black guy. We had to take him to the hospital, but it was okay. And that milk car disappeared. We get a phone call from downstairs. There's the guy whose car he had taken was up downstairs. So we bring him up. He said, look, I just decided that it was the best for me to come here rather than you go looking for me all over the place and maybe get my ass shot. He said, what a nice guy.
The guy that just carjacked him.
Yeah. What a nice guy. Look what he gave me. And he shows us a Rolex Presidential. That's all gold. Okay?
Right.
Rolex Presidentials are all gold. So he was pissed because he said, well, sorry, buddy, but that's not yours. And that's the proceeds of narcotics, so they stays here. So he said, God damn it, I should have never come here. I said, well. So he says that he drove him to Biscayne Boulevard, and he got out of the car. He says, I'm sorry. He had a very heavy accident. He said, but anyway, he gave him a Rolex, and he took off. And I thought the Rolex was maybe a phony one,
Right.
But no, it was a real thing. It was a Rolex Presidential, solid gold. Anyways, this guy disappears. This was on a Monday. Disappears on Tuesday. We pick him up again on Wednesday. We had trap and traces on our informant's phone. So whenever he called the informant, we would be told where he was calling from. He was making all these calls from public phones. So I moved in like 20 cars into the area, and we started closing on him until maybe an hour later, two of my guys say, we got him on June Road and 45th. Right close to the June Road. They follow him. A milk car goes into the parking lot of an apartment building. He's got another Cuban Mariel driver who we also had a homicide warrant for, and who had in the back seat, he had a jar with alcohol, and on one finger of the woman he killed. So and that was the warrant we had for him. And
he's got her finger?
Huh?
So the warrant you have for the murder, he's got the finger in the jar.
It's got the finger in the jar of the woman he killed.
Yeah, okay, he's done.
Yeah, so,
he's done.
Yeah. So
might as well left your wallet at the scene of the crime too,
So he and a milk car get out, and the moment they get out, they had their guns in their hands, and my guys didn't wait either. They didn't wait, no, police. They opened fire. Now with semi-automatic guns. So we open fire on these guys. They take off. They go upstairs in the apartment building, and they hide in the laundry room. And that's what we got them. So we got our first target a week into being formed, Centag. We took him upstairs to my office, and Roy Black, who is,
I've met several guys who had Roy Black as he must have been young at this point too, right? This is in the early 80s, right?
This is 80.
80. Oh,
81,
geez.
I'm sorry. This is 81.
Yeah, Roy must have been, because I knew guys in the 2000s that had him as an attorney.
Yeah, I remember Roy when he was clerking for one of the circuit court judges, and we were good friends. Roy and I were very good friends. We had a good relationship. And he calls me up when I'm talking to a milker. He calls me up, Raul, I understand you have my client there. I said, I don't know who your client is. Who's your client? He said, you know who I'm talking about? I said, no. You give me a name, okay? And I'll tell you whether he's your client or not. But I'm going to tell you something. Call me like in an hour and a half later, okay? Because right now, Roy, he's up to $15 million that he's offering me. If I let him go, and I want to see how far he goes, he goes, God damn it, you son of a bitch, give me that. So I put him on the phone with his client, and we took him back to the jail, and then Roy had his day. But he was found guilty eventually.
Not even Roy Black could get him off.
Roy Black, you know what? Let me tell you something. Roy Black and I had drinks after that because we were friends. And he says, you know, I've had clients. This guy scared me. This guy scared me. He really did. He scared me. So he knew what he had.
What was the other one? Shrebnick. Wasn't Shrebnick Roy's partner at one point?
It's
forget his name. I want to say it was Shrebnick.
I know his name, and I know him because he's my brother's neighbor. Howard
Shrebnick. Yeah. I knew a couple guys that had him as he did the appeals. He did a lot of appeal work
because he's a very good constitutional lawyer.
Yeah.
And Roy is the man
in the courtroom, right?
Yeah.
He's the performer.
Let me tell you something. He was such a great guy.
Yeah.
What a great attorney. But anyways, so Roy couldn't help him, and this guy went to jail. He died in jail from a heart attack. So I didn't have to worry about him anymore. Because I knew if that guy had come out, I'd have to worry. Oh, yeah. So while working...
God, this was back when you could actually get found guilty for a murder and go to state prison and get out 5 or 10 or 15 years later. It's insane.
Good behavior.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What was the guy's name? Robert Young was a guy. In Miami, he got arrested too. And he got arrested for multiple murders and, made a deal and went to jail and went to prison and got out. He got out like 10 years later. It was like he had like 3 murders. But
Janet Reno was the chief prosecutor, was the state attorney in Miami. And she had never had given immunity to a shooter and a homicide. And she had to in this one, the one that we did get a milker. And she called me, she says, you're going to be the end of my life. I can't believe that you're making me give this guy immunity. I said, the only way. I said, and let me tell you something. This is not going to be the first guy. I mean, he's the first guy, but he's not going to be the only one. Because if you want to go against these guys, you better start thinking the same way we do against the mafia.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's no other way. So in the middle of all this, I had told my first wife, I said, listen, because she was really worried when I was working narcotics. And I said, don't worry about it because when I get there now, when I'm in homicide, when I get there, they're dead.
Yeah.
They can't do anything to me. Well, I forgot that homicide handled kidnappings. And one of the first cases I got was a kidnapping of a young kid who had been fronted a whole kilo of cocaine. A kilo of cocaine was going for $50,000 in those days in Miami. So someone fronted him the kilo and he got ripped off. Somebody stole the cocaine from him. And so the Colombians wanted their money. They couldn't get it, and they kidnapped him. So in we go. And we're working the case. I'm talking to the...
And you get a phone call after that? I mean, you would think that that's kind of an internal, kind of a underworld kind of thing that nobody would call you. Someone called you and said, hey, they kidnapped this kid.
No, we got a call from his wife. Uniform responded.
Okay.
And it was a kidnapping, so they called us.
Okay.
Uniform called us. So we went there, and she told us what happened. And she said that they've been calling him to see how she was doing collecting the money. And they told him, if we don't collect the money, I'm going to go kill your wife too. So I get there, and I tell these people that I'm the girl's uncle by marriage, and that I'm helping her put together the money. And I keep talking to them, I keep calling. And finally, I told the guy, I said, we got the money here. He said, okay, I'm going to go. So I said, hey, the guy's supposed to come here. So But I thought, he had told me that he was somewhere up in Palm Beach,
Hmm.
and I believed him. And I go outside to have a cigarette, and I see this car pulls up, and one guy gets out, another guy gets out, and a young guy starts walking towards me. I'm saying, "Just that guy looks familiar." It is familiar. He's a victim of a kidnapping, and the only thing I had time was to lean into the door and yell, "Bad guys!" Okay, to my guys who were monitoring the calls. The Colombian shows his gun. He's got it on his right hand, and I pulled my Browning, and he opened fire, and I shot at him, and he shot at me, and I shot at him, and we're both shooting around the poor guy who's kidnapped. All of a sudden, he drops, and I thought, "Oh my God! Either the Colombian or I killed this guy." But anyway, the Colombian takes off running to his right, and he runs right into an apartment where the door is open, right into our command post. so like 10 guns are pointing at him. He drops his gun, he gives up. Matt, when crime scene came in,
What happened to the kid? Did he get shot?
no, he never got shot. He just listen. You got bullets going one way and going the other way, and you're in the middle, and so he just fainted
Okay.
down. Yeah. When the crime lab gets there, that one of the technicians, Tommy Carroll, says, "Lieutenant, where were you standing?" I showed him where I was standing, and he said, "Look, and right at my head height, there's 3 hits, 3 projectiles hit the wall right behind my head, right at head height,
Right.
where I was standing." That's when my legs started shaking.
And you called your wife and said, "I'll be home. I'm on my way home." And that was no big deal. It was a quiet
My
day.
wife-
It was a quiet day.
My wife saw it on TV
Before you had called.
before I even called her. So,
She took that well.
huh?
Did she take that well?
No, I didn't take that one. No, because 2 months later, we get divorced. Yeah. So, good girl, good lady.
She didn't sign up for this.
Huh?
She just didn't sign up for that.
No. So, throughout this whole process of my working in Organized Crime Bureau and working narcotics at the VIN unit level, and now working homicide, and then taking over a CENTAC unit. CENTAC unit was, you have to understand, in any police department, homicide is the elite.
Yeah.
Okay? No one is more elite than homicide in any police department. So CENTAC was an elite within the elite. And I started getting investigated by almost every entity I worked with. I started getting investigated. People started making allegations that people that I had put in jail for 15 years started making allegations. And so they had to open a case and do an investigation. And so I was investigated by the DEA, IRS, my department, So,
What are the allegations? Corruption? You're taking bribes or what?
yeah, but I mean, they took 2 years to investigate all these things, and I was found not to have done anything wrong.
Right.
In one case, just when our internal affairs department closed the investigations that they had on me and gave the report that I was not suspected of any wrongdoing, the FBI came in and said, listen, we've had these allegations, but we haven't had time to work them. So they had to go back and start working them. That's when I decided to retire. Before
How long had you been on the force at this point?
13 years.
Okay.
So when that started happening, when I was cleared in the first two investigations, the county manager, the assistant county manager in charge of police, asked to meet me at the airport at the top of the airport, in a restaurant on top of the airport in Miami. And he came in with the Mayor Hialeah, who was a friend of mine. And he said, have a drink. I said, I'm in uniform. I can't do that. He said, come on. So he calls the waiter. He says, give me a coffee cup and put some Johnny Walker Black in there with a couple of ice. And so anyways, he says, look, I spoke with Windsor, who was then in charge of internal affairs. He says, there's nothing. And what I want you to know is wait 6 months, because I already announced my retirement. He says, I want you to take your retirement back. I want you to withdraw it. In 6 months, I'm going to promote you to major. And I'm saying this in front of Raul, so you have a witness. Raul, the Mayor Hialeah is also named Raul.
Mm-hmm.
Very popular name in Miami. Anyway, so I said, you know what? Have you heard what the FBI did? He hadn't heard. I said, well, they just came up with this new investigation. So you know what? I'm not going to take it anymore. I'm out of here. So I'm tired. When I was taken out of homicide, because they had to, because I had, they didn't want to have me on their investigations, doing all these other investigations. So they transferred me to the airport. I was put in the hospital for about 6 days because my autoimmune system shut down. The way the doctor explained it to me,
Stress?
the way the doctor explained it to me was I was at such a high level of stress in homicide that my autoimmune system was used to feeding off the adrenaline. When I went to the airport to a stress level of 0, compared to 15 from 1 to 10 in the homicide, my autoimmune system shut down. If you had a cold and you walked 2 blocks away from me, I would get that cold. That's how weak I was.
Right.
And so, I didn't want to, I was too young to die, So I retired.
What did you do at that point? Like, how do you go from being a police officer?
I had 2 friends who had worked with me in narcotics in the organized crime bureau. One had retired in 1981. The second had retired in 1982. And I was going to retire in 83. They had created a private investigative agency named Intercontinental Detective Agency. When I joined it, we changed it to ICDA Investigations. And we started that in 1983. I bought them out in 1988, and I had it until a year ago.
What type of investigations?
When we started, we were doing criminal defense. I did the criminal defense of the Colombians who murdered Barry Seal.
Okay. Okay. And these are the guys that caught up with Barry Seal at the halfway house, where they
the Salvation Army in Baton Rouge. When I left the department, these guys were doing criminal defense. And so I started doing criminal defense. And we were able to charge pretty well because of my experience. I mean, my job working for the defense was no different than my job working for a prosecutor. My job as a defense criminal investigator was looking at the case
right
that they had built against the client and see where they had messed up. And that was very effective And then I started working with Roy. We started working on cases together. So,
What about the Cubans that killed Barry Seal? How did they do?
what's that?
The Cubans that shot Barry Seal? Colombians. Sorry. The Colombians. What happened with them?
Those guys had zero chance.
Right.
In Lake Charles, Louisiana.
Right.
Okay, let me tell you something. I got there, and then I realized.
Well, wait a second. Colby, do you know what happened?
I know because of the movie that he got. I don't know why, but someone came up and shot him in his car.
Yeah, well, he had cooperated, and he'd cooperated against all these guys, and obviously they're all going to jail left and right. So at some point they put out a hit on him, and the judge fucked him over by saying,
The judge in Louisiana. What happened was.
Go ahead.
What happened was Barry got caught. Okay, and he got caught with a load. So
It's not good.
No, not that good at all. So, anyways, he flips, and he starts working with the Southern District of Florida in Miami. When that district in Louisiana had been investigating him for years, and they got pissed when he flipped and went to work for the District of South Florida.
Oh, okay.
And
I didn't know that. They just never explained why the judge screws him like that.
Oh, yeah. So anyways, he started working with them. It's funny because in the middle of all this is in 1984, I had another client who says that he's dealing with Pablo Escobar, and he wants him to go to Nicaragua and set up the same thing that he had set up in Colombia for laundering money. And that the people in Nicaragua were government ministers. So he records a conversation with one of the ministers in Nicaragua and gives it to me. I called a couple of friends in the CIA, said, would you be interested in this? And they, absolutely. So they came by, picked up the tape. I was already retired. They came back and picked up the tape and took it, and they had it analyzed, and it was the voice of a minister named Tomas Borges. So the information was good. The Nicaraguan government was getting involved with Pablo Escobar. We were told, or the CIA was told, to lay off the case, and they were not told why. And the reason why was because Barry had flipped and was already cooperating, and he was going to record and photograph all these people involved in Nicaragua loading a plane with Pablo Escobar. Barry gets to Nicaragua with his plane. This was one ballsy son of a bitch. Oh, yeah. Because the camera broke. The camera the CIA set up, the FBI set up in the airplane broke. It wouldn't function automatically. So Barry turned it to manual, and he's leaning, punching the shutter button inside the plane, taking the pictures of the Nicaraguans, Pablo Escobar, and everybody. And that's why I couldn't go, the CIA couldn't go through with my plan. Anyways, they catch him, he flips. Starts working with the Southern District of Florida. He does a thing in Nicaragua, and the Southern District of Florida became Barry's best friend, okay? Because they were so happy. And so they made a hell of a deal with him. Well, he still has a case pending in Louisiana. So he goes before this federal judge, and the prosecutor there insisted that he sentence him at least to halfway house, sentencing Barry to a halfway house was sentencing him to death. Because the moment the Colombians found out where he was, where he had to be every day at 6 o'clock in the evening, that was it.
Did you ever see the it was an HBO version of his story. It was with Dennis Hopper plays him.
No, I didn't.
Yeah. Did you see the movie?
I heard about it. Yeah.
Did you ever see the movie American Made? You see any of these?
No, I didn't know.
So the one I like about what I liked about the Dennis Hopper one, which was made 40 years ago,
Okay.
was that when the judge, so first of all, like the DEA agents and everything, they were supposed to show up so they could talk on his behalf. And like he's looking and nobody's there.
Yeah.
So he's going, like, what's, he's talking to his lawyer. He's like, I don't know. They said they'd be here. I don't know, what am I supposed to do? And so then the judge, of course, yells at him and lectures him. And then when the judge orders that, Seal stands up and he goes, well, you might as well execute me yourself if you send me to a halfway. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
I have an agreement. Like, he's like, I don't have any agreement with me.
That's right.
And they sentence him.
Yeah.
They don't go over that same scene in American Made. They never really explain. They just sentence him and he's there at the end of the movie.
What was the movie? What was Dennis Hopper's movie?
It was
called?
Oh gosh, I don't know.
What's the guy's name?
Dennis Hopper, and I believe it was an HBO movie, or at least I saw it on HBO. Yeah, but it's a great scene because they really explain, and the part you talk about in the
Double Crossed.
Double Crossed. So the scene with the plane,
What do you mean the Double Cross?
No, Double Cross is the name of the Dennis Hopper film.
Okay, yeah.
But the scene with the plane where they have all those photographs of the guy, he's and he's actually, like, another thing was that the camera was loud. Like
it was
because
it was,
and he was like, "What the hell?"
Had the motor working. Yeah,
he had to turn the thing.
Yeah.
But he does. He takes the pictures. Everything. They definitely do a good job in the Dennis Hopper one explaining that. Also, they didn't do a great job in the movie.
The other one, yeah.
So I kind of like the Dennis Hopper one, but they've got some great. Both of those have some great scenes. They're both great movies in themselves, with different parts of it. But yeah, it's just so funny because if you want people to cooperate, you have to take care of them.
Yes.
Otherwise they're going to be like, nah, you got Jimmy killed. No, I knew a guy that cooperated with you. Bobby got murdered. Bobby, or you sent him in jail for 15 years after you promised you would do this and this.
That's right.
So.
And it was a shame because I liked Barry. Barry was a special forces kind of a guy. I think he was a Green Beret at one point. So he was a good man at one point,
Mm-hmm.
But the temptation.
You also, I think you would explain that working for the state, like he had actually made the pitch to work for him, didn't he? At one point, he got busted, and did he make the pitch that, hey, let me work with you on this?
Know.
Oh, okay.
But let me tell you what happened during that investigation. I'm not giving up anything. It's attorney-client. During the investigation, I found that there were different groups represented by the people who were here to shoot Barry Seal. Like, some people belong to to Escobar, other group to Ochoa's, and like that. So they pooled the resources to get this done.
They all had a vested interest in having him.
The guy who was the chauffeur with a getaway car was Griselda's boy and the shooter at the Dayland Shopping Center in Miami.
Right.
So that was a guy, that was a crazy story. The guy was dressed in hospital greens. Okay? Here's this huge Colombia, because he was like 6-something. They get away, they drive from the Salvation Army 4 or 5 blocks to a church's parking lot. They drop off that car, pick up another car, and they take off. They go to the capital. So they go to Baton Rouge. No, not Baton Rouge. Anyway, yeah, they went to Baton Rouge. They go to the Holiday Inn by the airport. And the FBI had gotten the description out. The FBI stops this guy, New Orleans. They went to New Orleans, not Baton Rouge. So they stop these guys at the New Orleans airport. They question him, and they let him go.
Oh, what? They just didn't realize they had the right person?
They didn't realize they had the right person. But he was still dressed in scrubs. He gets into a taxi cab at the airport. He says, "Take me to the next capital." The guy says, "Yeah, I take you to Baton Rouge." "Oh, no, Baton Rouge. Oh, take me someplace else." So they're driving. There's a call. There's a bolo out for this Colombian. So they get to a gas station in the middle of the night. It's they got all this fog out there, and the taxi hits a deer, and the deer punctures the radiator. So when they got this deer, they stop at a gas station, and the taxi driver is making a phone call, and Cumbamba, who's a Colombian, dressed in scrubs, is looking inside at the radiator, and a cop sees him and remembers the bolo. So they get 3 or 4 units. They pull up there, and they point their guns to the taxi driver. The taxi driver says, "Geez, it was only a deer."
Right.
So they finally arrested Cumbamba there. In working this, I found that when the hit went down, there were 2 guys across the street from the Salvation Army taking hits, taking photos of the hit in a camera.
Yeah.
They had the whole thing on film. So now it's over. They're hitting the FBI, and the state are hitting some of the safe houses. And they get to a safe house, and there's this camera there. And the FBI guy opens it back, takes out the roll and pulls it out and exposes it. And he laughs. He says, "I wonder whose birthday I just ruined." And the whole hit was there in that roll of film.
It's a jerk off thing to do, right? Just thinking he's cute.
Yeah, but those boys had no chance
Right.
in Lake Charles, Louisiana.
Will they both get life?
You all got life.
Well, there was how many of them? 2? Or
Huh?
Were there 2 of them?
No, there were a total of about 4 or 5.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Tell me about the book. Who How did you get in touch with Sean?
Sean called me when he was writing the book, The Monkey Morales. The Monkey Morales book, because the monkey was he was one of my main he was my main informant in Miami, because he had access to terrorist guys and narcotics guys and all kinds of criminal activity. So he became my main informant. And Sean was writing the book with the monkey's son. And he contacted me to find out about Ricardo. So when he finished the book, I got a copy of it, and I liked the way he wrote it. And so I called him and I said, "You want to do this with me?" And he said, "Absolutely." So
You worked on the book. When did it come out?
came out in June. No, it came out in April
April of this year?
of this year, yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe it had been a few years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. So,
How long would it take to write it?
Oh, with Sean, I had taken. I started by myself,
Right.
and I was not a writer.
Right.
I mean, I know I could write. I can write. I've always been a very good writer. And I had a lot of pages done. But I needed somebody to tell me, sit your ass down and let's do this.
Right.
And that was Sean. And then he's authored several books. So he is a writer, and he helped. I couldn't have done it without him.
And what's the book called?
The book is called Killing the Lieutenant. And it's called that because he says that not only were the Colombians trying to kill me, I was trying to kill me. Everybody was trying to kill me, including myself. I was drinking a lot. And I quit that 14 years ago. So Killing the Lieutenant by Lieutenant Raul Diaz and Sean Oliver.
Hey, you guys, I appreciate you watching. Do me a favor, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell so you get notified of videos just like this. Also, if you want to buy Raul's book, he goes over in much more detail everything we just talked about. The book is on Amazon. It's on Barnes & Nobles. It's everywhere that you can find and buy books. It's also in digital. He's got a Audible version and also soft copy. So we're going to leave the link in the description box. You can go there, click on it. It'll shoot you over to all of those platforms. Thank you very much. I really do appreciate you watching. Also, if you are interested in being a guest, we're going to leave our website down there also. So you can click there, go to the Be a Guest page, fill out a form, leave a quick video. We'll get back with you. Thank you very much. See ya.